If you thought the iPhone barely changed every year, think again. From the iPhone 14's return to basics, to the iPhone 15's major shift to USB-C, the improved performance of the iPhone 16, and now the iPhone 17 Pro Max promising Apple's biggest camera and battery upgrades yet. The question on everyone's mind is simple. What's actually changed, and what's just marketing? In this comparison, we break down the real, important differences, design, cameras, performance, battery, and everyday features, to reveal whether upgrading to the iPhone 17 Pro Max is truly worthwhile, or whether the older models will still hold their own in 2025. iPhone 17 Pro Max vs 16 vs 15 vs 14. What actually changed? iPhone 17 Pro Max vs 16 vs 15 vs 14. What actually changed? Apple's iPhone lineup evolves at a mix of glacial and sprint-like speeds. Some years bring sweeping redesigns and new categories of features. Other years feel like steady polish. Comparing the iPhone 17 Pro Max to its recent predecessors, iPhone 16, 15, and 14, shows exactly that. A combination of iterative refinements and a few meaningful leaps. Below I walk through the real, practical differences across design, display, performance, cameras, battery, charging, and software, unique features so you can see what matters, and what's mostly marketing polish. Design and build. Subtle refinements versus visible redesigns. From the iPhone 14 to the iPhone 15, the changes were mostly iterative. A familiar silhouette with aluminum or stainless steel rails and modest changes to dimensions, weight, and colorways. The iPhone 15 series marked a more noticeable shift in materials and connector, USB-C on 15, but the visual language was still firmly incremental compared with the dramatic redesigns of earlier generations. With the iPhone 16, Apple again refined ergonomics and introduced some hardware tweaks. The non-Pro 16 received a couple of new physical control changes, but it wasn't a radical look change. More, caught up to expectations in some areas while intentionally holding back others. For example, the standard 16 stayed without promotion at launch. The iPhone 17 Pro Max pushed the Pro line's aesthetic and durability story further. Apple promoted a stronger ceramic shield too, slightly altered dimensions for improved hand feel, and new color options. On the Pro models, Apple also continued to emphasize premium finishes and marginally thinner bezels. If you want the most refined physical package, heavier, chunkier, and unmistakably Pro, the 17 Pro Max is the clear top pick. Bottom line. If you care about feel and flagship materials, each successive Pro upgrade is noticeable. For most buyers, the 14 right pointing arrow, 15 right pointing arrow, 16 non-Pro step changes are small. Display, refresh rates, brightness, and real-world differences. Apple has used the Pro line to gate higher refresh rates and top-tier display features. The iPhone 14 Plus used capable OLED panels, with the Pro variants being where Apple reserved promotion in the highest sustained brightness. iPhone 15's mainstream models added the dynamic island, previously Pro only on 14 Pro, and upgraded the main sensor on 15 Plus to a 48 megapixels main camera. But the biggest display differentiator remained promotion, 120 Hz, and peak brightness advantages kept for Pro models. By iPhone 16, the non-Pro models were still somewhat conservative compared to the Pro line, for example, still lacking adaptive 120 Hz in some units, while the Pro models continued to refine refresh, brightness, and power efficiency. The iPhone 17 Pro Max continues that path, with Apple touting brighter, more durable panels and incremental screen tech improvements on Pro hardware. For everyday scrolling, the jump from 60 Hz to 120 Hz, if moving from a non-Pro older phone, is the most noticeable single change. Bottom line, if you want buttery motion and the brightest HDR, pick a Pro. If not, the standard displays are still excellent. Performance, chips and future-proofing. Apple's chip cadence is predictable. Each year brings a new A-series chip, with Pro models sometimes getting higher-tier silicon sooner. The iPhone 14 used A15 variants, depending on model. The iPhone 15 moved many models to A16 in some cases, and the iPhone 16 introduced newer silicon across the line. The iPhone 17 Pro Max ships with Apple's A19 Pro, which brings measurable gains in raw CPU, GPU performance, energy efficiency, and AI, machine learning throughput for on-device tasks, photo processing, computational video features, etc. In practice, unless you are a power user, video editing, heavy gaming, Camera prosumer workflows. The real-world differences between A16, A17, A19 for common apps are modest. Where the new silicon shows up immediately is in photography, computational steps, battery life under load, and future-proofing. Apple often supports devices in software for many years, so newer chips buy you a longer relevant lifespan. Bottom line, the A19 Pro in the 17 Pro Max is the fastest and most future-proof option. For everyday users, the 16 and 15 still feel snappy. Cameras, the biggest area of real improvement. Camera upgrades are where Apple has steadily pushed noticeable, tangible changes. iPhone 14. Solid main sensor improvements and computational photo gains, plus Apple's emergency features, satellite SOS, crash detection, introduced around the 14 cycle. These security, communication features were major non-camera additions that changed real-world utility. iPhone 15. Introduced a 48 megapixels main sensor to the base 15 models, bringing higher resolution capture and more flexibility with crops, dynamic island to more models, and improved image pipelines. iPhone 16. Refined camera processing and added a few software, hardware niceties, some new camera modes and controls, though the Pro models traditionally get the biggest optical hardware advantages. iPhone 17 Pro Max. Apple leaned into the Pro camera story, all 48 megapixels fusion rear cameras and the longest zoom ever on an iPhone, plus a new center stage front camera for smarter group selfies and framing. The A19 Pro's image pipeline and on-device computations meaningfully improve low-light performance, sharpening, and computational zoom. Reviewers note that while the results aren't always night and day different for casual shooters, the 17 Pro Max is a clear leap for photographers who rely on zoom ranges and telephoto detail. Bottom line, if camera versatility, zoom, telephoto reach, and the best computational processing are priorities, the 17 Pro Max is the standout. For everyday snapshots, 15 and 16 remain excellent. Battery life and charging ports. Battery life improvements usually come from a mix of slightly larger cells, chip efficiency, and software optimizations. The Pro Max models have historically had the best longevity because they pair bigger batteries with the same efficient silicon. The iPhone 17 Pro Max continues that tradition, and reviewers highlight best-in-class endurance for the 2025 lineup. A practical change that affected many buyers was the iPhone 15's move to USB-C, replacing Lightning, which simplified charging and accessory choices for many users. That change carried forward across subsequent models and is one of the more consequential ecosystem shifts. Bottom line, Pro Max equals best battery. USB-C arrived on 15 and onward, which matters for accessory compatibility. Software features and safety. Incremental but meaningful. Apple's iOS updates provide many headline features that work best on newer silicon. The iPhone 14 introduced groundbreaking safety features, car crash detection, satellite SOS, which were real additions beyond camera and speed. Subsequent models expanded on those capabilities and added camera software modes, on-device AI improvements, and better background processing. The iPhone 17 series also benefits from the newest iOS features and tighter hardware-software integration, e.g., smarter on-device AI that uses the A19 Pro, which brings new photo, video editing tricks, smarter widgets, assistant behaviors, and other conveniences. Bottom line, newer phones get more software features and run them faster and with lower power draw, but many software features are backported to older models to a degree. Should you upgrade? From iPhone 14 right-pointing arrow 15, 16/17 Pro Max. If you rely on safety features, satellite SOS, crash detection, already have moderate camera needs, and want a reliable phone, the 14 is still capable, but 15 adds USB-C and 48 megapixels capture, 16 polishes controls and processing, and 17 Pro Max gives you the best camera hardware, battery, and chip. From iPhone 15 right-pointing arrow 17 Pro Max. The biggest tangible gains are on the Pro Max. Telephoto, zoom improvements, longer battery life, and faster silicon. If you don't use zoom much or don't need max-level battery, a 16 or 15 still covers most use cases. Final verdict, what actually changed? Design and materials, steady refinement. Pro models get the most premium feel. Display, promotion and peak brightness remain Pro advantages. Moving from 60 right-pointing arrow 120 Hz is the most noticeable upgrade for everyday use. Performance. New A-series chips, A19 Pro and 17 Pro Max, give incremental yet real gains, important for power users and long-term support. Cameras. This is where upgrades compound. All-round camera boosts, new telephoto, zoom capability, and smarter front cameras on the 17 Pro Max. Ecosystem, safety. Satellite SOS, crash detection debuted around 14, USB-C arrived on 15. Those are functional, not just flashy, changes. If you want a one-sentence summary, for most people, the iPhone 15 or 16 remains an excellent choice. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is a meaningful upgrade mainly for photographers, power users, and those who prize the best battery life and pro hardware. At the end of the video, I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. See you in a new video.